talk about the Afterpay acquisition, because I mean, I understand the enthusiasm here. I really do. I mean, buy now, pay later is a tremendous opportunity. $30 billion is a tremendous price tag for this business.
Right. I think this is the biggest acquisition that either Square or PayPal has ever made.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, I think you're right. I mean, it is what, I mean, they say it's $29 billion,
Yep.
all stock deal. And I mean, I think it's great. At least Square is doing this at a time when the stock is, close to all-time highs, right? So it's a fairly cheap form of currency, but still, I mean, that's a big price tag for a business that it's growing by leaps and bounds, but it's still a small business.
Yeah. I mean, you have to, it's an all stock deal. So Square's kind of diluting shareholders by doing it.
Yeah.
This makes Square, after today's pop, it's apparently the market likes this deal. The stock's up 11% today. This makes Square almost over $155 billion company all by itself. So they're really adding to their outstanding share count. Now, after today's pop, it's over 30 billion they're paying for Afterpay because it's all stock. You know, it's based on their stock price. They're giving a set number of shares. Afterpay, if you're not familiar, they're based in Australia. They're probably the most comparable competitor to Affirm in the buy now, pay later space. You know, buy now, pay later is when you see the little button when you're about to check out that says, you know, break this into 6 monthly payments of $100 instead of one $600 payment. That's a buy now, pay later service. PayPal has already kind of built its own.
Yep.
Affirm is pretty big, especially in the US. Peloton is their big customer.
Yeah.
Afterpay they're an Australian company, but the majority of the revenue is from North America. So why they offer interest-free financing, no credit checks, standard buy now, pay later features that appeal to customers. The no credit checks really is appealing, as opposed, you know, people always ask the question, well, why wouldn't I just use a traditional credit card? Because then you have to go through a credit check and the process like that.
Yeah.
With buy now, pay later, you just click the button and it's set up and done. If 98,000 active merchant accounts, it's a little over 16 million active customers, and they're growing fast. Those numbers are up 78% and 63% year over year. So they're growing pretty quickly. Almost $16 billion of gross merchandise volume was financed through Afterpay over the past year. So I mean, it's a pretty big company. About almost 700 million in revenue. Square's paying a pretty hefty multiple of that.
Well, they are, and I was looking at this earlier just to try to keep things in context, and because you had mentioned Affirm, and I mean Affirm, very similar business. I mean, focusing on a little bit of a different market opportunity, as you said, but regardless, Affirm, generally the same business, pretty similar size as far as revenue at this point. Similar models, and that they are still working towards profitability and whatnot. But you look at Affirm, and I mean Affirm, $15 billion company today, and so just to sort of see the premium that Afterpay is getting versus something like Affirm, I think it's noteworthy. I think for a few different reasons. I mean, it makes you wonder exactly what they saw in Afterpay really to offer such a premium. Perhaps part of that is, I mean, Afterpay, another founder-led business, it seems to be two very similar cultures, though. And that's one thing that really stood out to me with Afterpay and with Square. Very similar cultures and reasons for existing, right? Focusing on economic empowerment and economic inclusion and equality. I mean, acquisitions always present a fair share of risk when it comes to merging two cultures. It feels like maybe these are cultures that should mesh together fairly well.
Yeah, and there are a bunch of good reasons. I mean, I read through the investor presentation there. There are some good reasons. I mean, they want to integrate Afterpay into both the seller side of the business and Cash Apps, make it available for all of Square's seller accounts, which is in the millions.
Oh yeah.
I mentioned, Afterpay has 98,000 active merchant accounts. Square has 3 or 4 million. I'm not sure exactly. They don't really announce that number, but it's in the millions. So they want to make Afterpay service available to every merchant on Square's ecosystem. They want to integrate it with the Cash App to make it easier for buyers to make their payments and things like that. And they're going to be a buy now, pay later service because Square's focused on not just online businesses. They're focused on in-person merchants as well.
Yeah.
So buy now, pay later will be available to anyone who accepts Square for in-person purchases,
Yeah.
which is a pretty unique feature. And Afterpay, I mentioned they only have 98,000 merchant accounts. Most of Afterpay's customers are large customers. I mentioned Affirm has Peloton. Afterpay also has a lot of enterprise clients. Square would love to build relationships with bigger clients. They break this down in their earnings reports every quarter. How much of their revenue comes from small businesses, mid-sized businesses, larger businesses, and the larger business portion has been steadily increasing over time. So this could kind of give that a little shot in the arm. So that it kind of expands their merchant relationships on both sides. It's a pretty big market that they could go after.
Yeah. Yeah. Very big market indeed. Um, what do you think as far as, and we'll move on to Square's earnings here in just a minute, but that old saying, sometimes it's easier to buy it than to build it. And it feels like in this case, maybe Square felt like, you know what, this is going to be something it's going to be easier to buy than to build. But the flip side of that is, I don't know. I mean, it feels like maybe building it wouldn't have been all that tough if that was something they felt like doing. I mean, we've seen PayPal uh, build out their buy now pay later offering, and they're witnessing a ton of success. So I guess I wonder, do you feel like Square maybe felt a little pressure here, a little pressure on the time side, like they needed to get into this market opportunity sooner rather than later?
Maybe, and that's really the big reason I can think of is time.
Yeah.
Because you mentioned PayPal. I promise you, PayPal didn't spend $29 billion to build out their own buy now pay later platform.
No, I don't think they
That seems
did.
like a big price to pay. And the natural question is, why couldn't Square have just built it themselves if they had that much money to throw at it
Yeah.
and sees that much value in the buy now pay later business? I mean, obviously, they're not starting from zero. Now this buys them $700 million of annual revenue.
Absolutely.
So they're not starting from zero, but that's a hefty price to pay. And I'm not totally sold on it. I like the deal. I don't like the number.
Yeah.
I think that's a
Yeah.
hefty price to pay.